Dying night, the shadow of the bleeding night. The sword is losing its light, there's nowhere to hide. It's time to face the dark and fight them back. The moon is turning into evil red, burns the desert into ash, ruin the ark with chaos fire, yeah. Survivors won't pray for luck, belief could be hard as rocks, go against the deepest dark. Calling you above the sky. This war will end with the bravest men. Sent on the regroup for the fight. Now we've come back. I'm wondering who I am. Born through the fire, chasing for the meaning of the endless fighting. Who I am, the hands of flame. Would I be a hero? Would I see my neverland? I'll fight for the dreams that you have. Believe in your friends, get ready for the fight. You know who I am. Let's fight on time. Illuminate and lead the sky till the dawn. Back to life. Dying night, the shadow of the lonely night. The sword is losing its light, there's nowhere to hide. It's time to face the dark and fight them back. The sand is turning into evil black, burns the desert into ash, ruin the ark with chaos fire, yeah. Survivors won't pray for luck, belief could be hard as rocks, go against the deepest dark. The sand is calling you above the sky. This war will end with the bravest men. Sent on the regroup for the fight. Now we've come back. I'm wondering who I am. Run through the fire, chasing for the meaning of the endless fighting. Who I am, the hands of flame. Would I be a hero? Would I see my neverland? I'll fight for the dreams that you have. Believe in your friends, get ready for the fight. You know who I am. It's right on time. Illuminate the bleeding sky till the dawn. Back to life. I've seen my people down with sword in their hands, still standing their ground. No time for sadness, holding my faith, just keep on moving on. Fires and fires are falling everywhere, crying in the air, shouting out a glorious name. The name of the Savior in history till forever. Your faith is leading your way to the light. We know the real fighters never die. Send on and fight them one more time. Now we've come back. You're gonna know who I am. Run through the fire, finding out the meaning of the ruthless fighting. Here I am, the hands of flame. I will be the hero and rebuild my home, my land. I'll fight for the dreams that you have. Believe in your friends, get ready for the fight. You know who I am. It's right on time. Illuminate and lead the sky till the dawn. Back to life. Dying night, the shadow of the bleeding night. The sword is losing its light, there's nowhere to hide. It's time to face the dark and fight them back. The moon is turning into evil red, burns the desert into ash, ruin the ark with chaos fire, yeah. Survivors won't pray for luck, belief could be hard as rocks, go against the deepest dark. The sand is calling you above the sky. This war will end with the bravest men. Sent on the regroup for the fight. Now we've come back. I'm wondering who I am. Born through the fire, chasing for the meaning of the endless fighting. Who I am, the hands of flame. Would I be a hero? Would I see my neverland? I'll fight for the dreams that you have. Believe in your friends, get ready for the fight. You know who I am. Let's fight on time. Illuminate and lead the sky till the dawn. Back to life. Dying night. there's nowhere to hide. It's time to face the dark and fight them back. The sand is turning into evil black, burns the desert into ash, brewing the arc of chaos fire, yeah. Survivors won't pray for luck, belief could be hard as rocks go against the deepest dark. The sand is calling you above the sky. This way will end with the bravest men. Sands on the regroup for the fight. Now we've come back. I'm wondering who I am. Run through the fire, chasing for the meaning of the end is fighting.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Round 1 in Realm of Sobek. 56TA is taking on 61HX. Can you believe it? We are in the third match of the day. We've seen one match just recently with JST versus 1V. What a crazy match that was. Very, very tight up until about, I'd say, the 15-minute mark when you started to see the victor emerge, which was 1V taking out JST. Now, we also have joining me, I'm your host right now, but we have somebody joining me, a bearded brother situation going on here. We do have a Bulbaritos joining us. I'm going to go ahead and bring him into the caster's booth. Let's go ahead and say hello and welcome him. Bulbaritos with that smile on your face. Let's go. We got 56TA versus 61HX, Realm of Sobek. We haven't really done many finals casts of Realm of Sobek in these casts on the official channel. I'm so glad to be able to have gotten listened to this week and said, hey, you know, there's tons of bets on this match. There's a lot of new players to this game, and they are invested in the Realm of Sobek. So I wanted to make sure we had a solid opportunity to show this for you. I couldn't think of anybody better to join me and cast this with me. Bulbaritos, how you doing? What are you thinking about this matchup as we get it kicked off?
Man, I'm excited. I know on yesterday's cast you brought up the fact that there's over 1 billion. Man,
1.2
just to
billion,
think
right?
that's
Crazy.
1.2. It's just like holy smokes! Like either y'all are getting really good, or our bets are just getting really. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, there's so many orcs getting bet on this one. It just storylines itself. You know, we have on one side 61HX that took out DR34, who were the favorites, the highest. Had the highest total of eyes for talent in all four realms and
Sure
knocked
did.
them out. And you know, and on the other side, we had 56TA that just progressively kept growing their name. You know, they've looked very good, and they look like they've gotten even better as they've gone through this first season. And I'm just excited because we get to feel a little nostalgic. Take it back a little old school. We got some
Can't
Richards
complain.
going to be running around. You know, it's going to be exciting. So I'm excited for the match.
I couldn't agree more, and that's a great point that you bring up. So we've been seeing a lot of Nevskis. We've been seeing a lot of the later generation commanders on the cast on this channel because we've been really highlighting Horus, Anubis, and even a little bit of Bastet as well. Sobek, on the other hand, is a little bit different, guys. We're going to jump into the game in just a moment to show you what I mean by that. So we've got the commander rules. Now, for Realm of Horus, again, it's every commander available for you is ready to rock and roll. Unfortunately, that's what shows me in the game as well, so I'm not going to be able to showcase that to you, but I believe the only thing you have available to you is Gen 2, Gen 3 commanders at best. So we're going to be seeing a lot of Saladins. We're going to be seeing a lot of YSGs, Richards, Charles, all those types of commanders on the field. And again, it kind of throws it back to what Ark of Osiris and the original Osiris Leagues kind of started out as, doesn't it, Bulba?
Yeah, and you know, and that's I know for some we always like hitting the hard DPS and all that, but for us players that have been playing for well over 1,000 days already, you know, just seeing it's nice to see. You know, you're not seeing all the Xenos all over the place. You're gonna see some different garrisons. You're gonna see different mid game fights. Mid fighting for the arc is a lot less about who can send the most XYs and who can send the most bodies and compositions, all that kind of stuff. So it really becomes a lot about strategy more than about commanders and gear. That still plays a crucial role for sure, but I feel like it's a little bit more even playing field in these realms, just because the commander advantage isn't as massive.
Yeah,
I would
no,
say that.
totally agree. And, both of these teams, let me jump into the match really quick just to kind of show you what we're talking about. We've got 56 TA at 3.7 billion power roughly, and then 61 HX at 3.5. That's relatively the same. Both have 15 backups, so both are easily going to be able to compete with each other. And again, with the limited commander selection that the Realm of Sobek provides, this is really going to be a lot more even. And even so, if you haven't done so already, a poll has been put up in the chat asking who you think is going to win. Is it going to be 61HX or is it going to be 56TA? And so far, relatively even. Everybody's kind of split down the middle. Now, something that's not split down the middle is going to be the bets. So, first off, you've got the league bets here. Let's go over to Realm of Sobek. 61HX, the favorite at almost 1 billion coins put on them to win versus 300 million of 56TA. So the numbers have gone up even further from when I last spoke about it at the 3 UTC mark. We're talking about a lot of coins riding on this matchup. Some people's fortunes will be made when it comes to this matchup. So I wanted to showcase that for you all as well. We've got about 3 minutes or so until this match starts. So you just talked about strategy, Bulba. I'm going to go ahead and bring us back to the co-caster booth. What do you think we're going to be seeing here? Obviously, obelisk rallies are going to be starting off relatively quickly. Do you think they're going to incorporate some of those outpost rallies inside that you've seen in some of the earlier realm matches? And then also, again, do you see any kind of sneaky shenanigans happening from an alliance skill standpoint? Give me some info.
I always loved the sneaky shenanigans for sure, 100%. I really, when it came down to it, I went and rewatched the 61HX versus the DR34, and the one thing that really stood out to me and really impressed me, when you go and compare power, and we always talk about this all the time. Once you get to a certain point, it's more about strategy and all that. When you have 61HX that we're at 3.5 billion, and then DR we're at 4.8 billion. So there's quite a
Good point
drop.
out.
You know, at a certain point, you know, it's just about your strategy. And when I watched that match, the number one thing that stood out to me was 61HX's mid game. Their arc fights, it was like they cleaned them out. They cleaned them out. Their occupation, you know, was a little bit back and forth with DR, which is just likely to
Expected.
happen. You
Yeah.
know, it's expected with DR being as strong as they are, but just how efficient they were in middle. And that's definitely the one thing that I definitely want to see how 56TA are going to handle that, because they looked very impressive. And on the side of 56, their occupation was very good as well. Likewise, so you know, we could see a situation where, you know, you're going to have to win one of the two, and then it might come down to provisions. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
provisions I think are going to be a key part of this game, and then really, we've seen teams win these matches off the back of a strong structure game, even with losing the majority of the arcs. If they can maybe snag one arc, being 56TA, and win that structure game, I think they have every chance to win. And then certainly 61HX, we saw OV type style matchups where they just won the mid fight and just held enough on the structure game to win 2 full series championships for their alliance. I mean, that could certainly be the case here too. We're looking to see which one of these works out. Something else to consider as well when we're talking about what type of things can be used inside of this matchup. We've got not just the commanders, but also the equipment. The equipment is restricted based off of the realm. So we're going to see a little bit less of a lot of less of the horns, the daggers,
Mhm.
all the rings and things like that. Those are gone. Those are not available to these realms because of how new they are. They're not even in Season of Conquest yet. So they don't have access to any of that stuff. We're going to be seeing a lot of the Delane's Amulet, the Silent Trials, things like that. So there may be some rage issues going on here with all the Silent Trials that I expect to see inside of this matchup. We're going to be seeing a lot of things going on inside the game here. I'm going to ask you for a prediction as we jump into the game, Bull, but who do you think is going to
Mm.
win this matchup between 56TA and 61HX?
To be honest with you, I'm 61HX's mid game was just that impressive for me.
Hmm.
So I'm all for an underdog. Y'all know me. I love an underdog. But if 56 are going to have a shot, they definitely, in my opinion, need to get at least one of these arcs. Because the one thing that we will probably talk about later on throughout the match is in these younger realms, in our younger realms, they haven't gone through the gauntlet that a lot of our Horus realms have. So a lot of them haven't gone through that experience of how important provisions are. So you are going to have a noticeable drop off, usually on the younger realms on provisions, and more focus on open field. So, that's something we definitely are going to keep our eyes on. But in this one, I think I'm going to pull the first match for 61HX.
Okay, that's a solid play. We got two 22 and 2300 Kingdom teams here. Both teams really, really strong, obviously making it to the finals in the first realm of Sobek for Season 5 of the playoffs in Osiris League. Now, we've got both teams with some very marquee wins here. 56TA taking out a very solid team in RR38, going very deep for the power that they had. And then 61HX taking out two really quality teams. You've got DR34, obviously the favorite in Realm of Sobek, but also NRGP was making a name for themselves in this season's Osiris League playoffs as well. So these teams have qualified to be here. If I have to put a name on it, they're both very qualified to be here. They both have played marquee matchups and taken the victory. And now we see 56TA in the top left corner in the blue color, coming in to the finals, and then also, of course, 61HX in the bottom right corner in red, looking to face each other with 40 seconds until this battle starts. I'm looking to see a few things. Again, we talked about it earlier. I want to see the rally situation. I want to know what's going to be getting rallied at any given time, especially at the beginning of this matchup. Do we want to see obelisk rallies? Of course. But are we going to see outpost rallies? Are we going to see transport rallies? What's going to be going down? Do they do the standard prototypical desert altar push on both lanes? Those are the things that I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye for.
Yeah, and usually the breakoffs will kind of tell us what we want to see and what we know. Are they going to be running out? I don't think you're going to see as many running out with CCs and all that kind of stuff, just because of the of the locks and stuff like that. But we never know. I'm excited just to see a bunch of Khans and Sun Tzus, and it brings me back. It brings me back, and you always got to enjoy that. A lot of Charles Garrisons. We may even see. I don't know if Richard Caesar is still going to be meta in this game mode in this season in this realm. But I'm excited to see where we're going to be going. We're going to see some Belisariuses. My favorite.
Something else to point out too, I mean, we have the museum buffs active for this match as well. So even though these are Generation 1 and 2 commanders, you're still going to see some massive benefits from those Generation 1 commanders with the museum buffs. That means Minas are going to be very, very prevalent on this matchup alongside of those Saladins and Alexes and things like that. We have Ethelfled certainly getting some buffs from the museum as well. We've got double C primaries going out to try and get movement down the battlefield. I'm looking at 56TA right now, and they're pouring out tons of troops. Siege are already going out from the main base as well, looking to get those early provision points socked up for the blue team. Hard push being used by both teams here, looking like they're wanting to capture the buildings as quickly as possible. Ultimately, in 11 minutes, we're going to see this first Ark of Osiris spawn at the Temple of Osiris. See what this mid fight looks like. You were mentioning earlier that 61HX is the mid team to look out for. I'm looking to see how they position, what their troop composition is, considering the limitation on the equipment and on the commanders. Both teams, well, at least one team has captured their first obelisk. I'm looking to see maybe, there we go. There's the secondary one getting captured about 10 seconds behind or so. Yeah, it's about 10 seconds behind, so not too bad.
Yeah, and right now I was just clicking on both of the teams just to kind of see what march compositions you're kind of using. You are seeing a lot of Saladins for sure on the side of 56. We are seeing some Martells, but we're seeing a lot of Ethels, and which is very interesting. We were expecting more Minas and CCs and stuff like that because those those buffs, but you are seeing those buffs on the side of 61HX. They are bringing those CCs, those Minas. They're really stacked over here. I even see do some eddies. You got to be excited for that. YC
Yeah.
primaries, museum buffs as well. So I really do think museum buffs are going to play a bigger role in this realm in particular, just because of how insane they can be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see some Charles Alex rallies, which again was very much meta earlier in the game when your kingdom is very young. You're seeing a lot of damage there, a lot of tankiness. Counterattack damage is very important with a little bit of nuke from Alex, very strong, and all the attack and defense bonuses that Alex provides really helps get that rally going. And then speed. Both of those commanders have a lot of speed. That Charles Alex rally is heading down the field at a very high clip. And we're looking to see what these things can do. Now, we talked about the outpost stuff, right? Looks like 56TA has really made it a focus. 3 outpost rallies at the very beginning versus only 2 for 61HX. Now, I only see right now basically the outpost rallies being left. Now it looks like they've been canceled. So maybe some movement for the troops, or again, maybe they saw that they were all properly garrisoned and didn't want to waste those troops coming out. So 56TA still has 3 outpost rallies up, though. Looks like they may start to hit here shortly.
Yeah, and I'm watching right now on the 56 or those Saladin rallies coming in on the outpost. But as you can see, it looks like 61 did their homework, because they got troops parked outside getting ready to swarm this thing, and they aren't looking to give it up. So it's going to be very interesting how each team counter strats each other. We are starting to see some fighting on the bottom side desert altar as we're chatting. Constantines, Minamotos, gotta love it. A bunch of Ethels coming in, and the rest of 56 are starting to push forward, looking topside as well. And yeah, 61 being very aggressive as well on the opposite side. And very shortly, these buildings are going to start opening up.
Yeah, I got to make a correction on myself. So I had mentioned the museum buffs. I forgot to mention it. That's only during Season of Conquest. So huge mistake. Pull that back. I take it all back. And yeah, so no museum buffs going on here, but these are still obviously all equal when it comes to Generation 1, Generation 2 commanders here. So everything's the same. That being said, I mean, there's Ethelfleds being used primary for the earlier realms. I mean, you see a lot of Ethelfleds on the field with a Trajan behind or a YSG behind or something like that, and they're doing very solid work when it comes to that debuff / damage. And it's no surprise to me that that's also going to be something that you'll see in the realm of Sobek, considering you have access to it. And if it's being used in the earlier kingdoms already, why not go ahead and get that in your repertoire now? We have these buildings opening up right now. Top lane, interesting, 61HX holding back and not getting around that desert altar, instead deciding to assemble first. Wanted to have that 61HX assemble moniker put right there on that spot. They are not moving. They're waiting for more reinforcements to come in. On the bottom lane, however, 56TA has made the aggressive push. They are around that desert altar. 61HX does have it currently with a Constantine garrison. Very strong early game. Again, in Realm of Sobek, this is a good garrison to have. That heal is very nice.
Now, it's very interesting that that they aren't actually approaching, because this timing is going to throw them completely off if they're going to be intending to rotate towards middle. With most teams are constantly rotating around the 5-minute mark, as you can see on the timer on the top left of the cast. It's going to throw them off, because most of these marches aren't going to, they're going to be returning home. You still got to wait for it. So I'm not a huge fan of waiting like that. I do like the aggressive push that 56 was doing on the bottom side altar, and it looks like they got some numbers in there. So it's going to be very interesting. A minute with a Constantine garrison from the side of 61HX. Let's see if they hold on, and we're going to see who's going to start rotating towards middle for that first arc.
Yeah, 45 seconds until these structures get taken. We have rallies heading out from 61HX. Edward, likely Tommy rally. Yep, that's what it looks like to me. We have an Edward Tommy rally heading towards the Shrine of War on the bottom lane. We also have an obelisk being attacked from a rally on the 56TA top side, but it looks like it's being handled quite nicely by 56TA. In fact, heavily swarmed down. Wu garrison on that obelisk as well. Very strong early game. We're also seeing a Shrine of Life in the top lane being heavily harassed, although 56TA looking like they've got the field presence across all the spots to hold exactly what they need to hold. 10 seconds until these structures start to capture and get those generating first occupation score points. 56 TA is still heavily harassing this bottom lane Desert Altar Bull, but it's about to capture. In fact, it just started to happen right now. And I think most of these marches are also basically dead too, so they're probably going to want to kill these marches relatively soon to get them back to start going towards the middle with 5 minutes until it starts.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that points per minute, 590 and 590. So we are deadlocked on the points per minute. The rotation should start coming in fairly soon. I was checking the middle and hadn't seen anybody there yet. And so it's going to be very interesting watching both of these teams rotate in late to go get this first arc. Arc is going to be a big deal in this match for sure. So I am very interested to see who's going to, if 56 is going to put up a huge fight, what 61 is going to send to the middle, and kind of what March composition is going to be doing. I predict there's probably going to be a bunch of Alexes, and just because Alex right now in KVK2 is just absolutely filthy. And of course, you always got, the archers. I don't know if the first, second gen of archers are as nasty as, they're definitely not as nasty as your Season of Conquest, but you will probably see more Saladins and stuff like that. But we're excited for some combos. Constantine is just tanking. It's just insane how much. I forgot how tanky he was.
Yeah, for real. I mean, you're looking at the map right now. 3 altars in 61HX's hands currently. 30 seconds until it starts taking points for 61HX. 30 seconds until that happens. And then we've got a Constantine garrison in the Desert Altar. So they've got a nice solid garrison there. A few marches to actually get some work done from a reinforcement standpoint. And actually a Woo swap, which is, again, very strong. They've got a plethora of garrison commanders at their disposal. 61HX pulling out all the stops. We've also got a heavy contingent of 56 TA in and around that Desert Altar trying to take it back. Woo very strong against the Swarm early game, and we see 61HX coming in from both sides now to the middle because of the owning that Desert Altar. It's giving them a nice little staging point to go ahead and come to the middle as well. Looked like 56 TA wanted to take the position early. Is this going to be an outpost rally going beside the temple, or is this going to be a transport rally? It'd be interesting to see either one.
Yeah, and I do want to see 56 kind of be the aggressor in this situation. If they're going to get pushed from both sides, you kind of got to focus on one side or the other, because you don't want them to clamp on you, because then you're just kind of caught out in no man's land. And as we say it, they are starting to fight in the middle. 56 already are going to start dragging them, which is very interesting. 2.5 minutes. I don't think we're going to see skills getting popped right off the rip, just because you don't want to. You really, it's too early. There's not enough marches for it to be like a true benefit. But I suspect once we see the rest of these 56 marches starting to rotate towards middle, you're definitely going to start seeing the skills pop, probably around the minute mark before the arc spawns.
Yeah, I mean, 56 TA doing a great job of trying to clear out these marches that were coming from their Desert Altar, which they did get back. It is now blue and starting to count down to start generating points for them. But again, right now 61HX with a 150 point per minute lead because of that Desert Altar. Another rally coming through for 56 TA, a Saladin rally. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be a cancel rally or if this is going to be an outpost rally. I feel like it's going to be another outpost rally. They're doing outpost rally pretty much consistently nonstop. 11 rallies right now, Bulba, and the majority of them being on the blue team side. 7 of those 11 are coming from 56 TA. They are not keeping, they're definitely keeping the pressure up on 61HX as this middle team starts to engage each other.
Yeah,
this is going to be a mess in the middle.
I'm looking for skills to pop right now. If you're 56, you got the march
got enough.
advantage.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. And that's 61. They pop hard push. Here comes Mystical. 56 should have the advantage right now if they use their skills, and they have the numbers, which is very interesting because 61 came out a little staggered, like we were saying. Their marches by the time they got back home, they rotated in. They rotated in late, and 56 are pouring these numbers in. But I'm looking at the map right now, and everything is literally blinking red, or not blinking red, but just blinking in general.
It's red, it's blinking.
If it's red, it's blinking, basically. And that's not a good sign, because 56 is looking really tough in the mid game right now. So if you aren't going to dominate in middle, you definitely can't afford to lose your structures and take that double hit.
Yeah, 56 TA definitely owning the middle fight right now, but I will say that 61HX is holding their own on the structures, and in fact has 2, maybe 3 actual rallies out on 56 TA structures of their own. So they are holding their own. I'm not seeing anything necessarily that's going to flip blue, although maybe the Desert Altar on the bottom lane, depending on how those swarms play out, That could possibly flip if there's no reinforcement coming from the obelisk area for 61HX. All the other buildings are looking like they're taking care of business. So this could be an even structure fight through this first arc spawn in 5 seconds. Looks like 56TA may have the field, though, to go ahead and get this thing done and take a beeline to their side of the map.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's I'm keeping my eyes on it. I went to go check those 11 rallies you were talking about, and majority of them were inside of 61HX, which could explain why there's way less troops on the field.
Big move.
I like that. That's a nice little snag, especially if you're trying to stall for all these red marches that are coming through. Just scooping that right there is a huge deal.
It is. It really is. And conversely, 61MX taking the Sky Altar from 56TA on the bottom lane. So Julius Caesar Garrison, that likely will go down, but there's not enough 56TA to take it back right now. So that may start ticking points in favor of 61HX on top of the already points per minute total that they've got currently right now, which is again 150. That'll be a 300-point swing there, assuming they can hold that for another minute or so. Now I will say again, 56TA is owning the middle fight, but 61MX did a great job of delaying that movement back to their side. Now something to think about, Bulba, and I'm going to ask you this question. Early game, like when Ark of Osiris first came out, and there was no realms, it was just Ark of Osiris and that's it. There wasn't even any playoffs. There was no thought of holding the arc. There was no thought of delaying or anything like that. It was just, let's cap it. Let's cap it. Let's get some more arcs. That was the play. Yeah. And whatever happens just kind of happens. Do you think we're going to see that here, or do you think that 56TA will hold and try and reposition, take that altar back first before they go ahead and capture it, restructure their pushes for the 61HX structures? What do you think?
I think they did a fantastic job this first arc. I was actually very impressed with their presence. But usually what happens when you invest like that, you see what you see on the map right now. They're going to start losing their structures. They lost 3 of the 4 altars, which eventually that points per minute is going to start ticking in your opponent's favor. And it kind of forces your hand. As much as I would love to say they probably should hold it, 61HX are looking really strong in occupation, and you really can't afford points-wise to hold a 3K arc, but then lose 3K in a couple of minutes. It's one of those things. But I would like to see them capture this arc once they've neutralized a couple of these structures. That way they can start working towards moving and getting more arcs, because they looked very, very, very good in the middle. And I'm excited to see what both of these teams are going to do when they have a little bit more skill usage and that kind of stuff when start rotating mid again.
Yeah, so they have one of the slowest marches in existence with Constantine Mulan moving the arc right now. Maybe hop in that caravan and get a double C over there to get it over to the outpost. That would be a solid strategy play, or even, that's exactly what they're doing. They've already got a double C ready and lined up. They're likely going to hop in that caravan, get the double C, get it, and then go over to the outpost. I think they will instantly capture this. They're already beelining for the outpost before they made that strategic move. 56TA starting to peel out from the middle. There are 1 or 2 more marches coming through the middle to try and get this arc to drop, but I mean, that may do 56TA a favor, considering they're probably likely to drop it anyway. So double C in the middle getting hit here by 1, maybe 2 marches if that guy turns around. That's exactly what he did. And then all the buildings are equal again. So right now it's still a 150 point per minute favor for 61HX, but that's because the Sky Altar on the bottom lane is still got 56 seconds until it starts ticking points back for its original owner of 56TA. But 56TA also has 3,000 points just sitting in the pocket. They bypassed that provision spot, that caravan. So it looks like they're going to go ahead and just keep it with Constantine and say, you know what, he's our man. We have to root him on. There's a heal, by the way, from Constantine, 25,000 point heal. That's his 4th skill going off. Still going down though to this two double C armies. They're still harassing as 61HX. And again, I love to see this kind of stuff because traditionally in the earlier realm stuff, right, where you're talking about very high precision, high timing play things, they have to make a decision. Like, they either like, you know what, we're done, or we've got this and we need to commit. 61HX sending just some harassment marches over here to drop the arc carrier, There goes the arc down on the ground. There's a Saladin, Ethelfled, and a double C, likely Minna or something like that behind. Nope, that's another Saladin behind the double C. Who picks it up? Is it going to be blue? And is it going to start moving towards that outpost? It sure is. And it is a double C. Now, it's not moving towards the outpost, though. It's going south. Interesting. Confusing the commentators, Bubba.
Yeah. They literally took it within rock throwing distance.
It's right there.
Outpost, and the guy, I'm wondering if this guy's getting yelled at in the comments. He's, where are you going?
I don't know. This to me, maybe,
pretty confident.
it kind of answers our question, right? I think maybe they will hold it a little bit, maybe start pressuring on the structure game first before capturing it, or maybe again just trying to limit the amount of arcs in this game. Now, I will say again, we came into this. You told me 61HX is a premier mid team, and we look to see that happen. Maybe 56TA understands that and is like, okay, well, we did win that first fight, but maybe it was because of positioning, maybe it was because we caught them off keel. If 61HX, excuse me, I'm still in 60 GT, 60 MX mode. 61HX is able to form up properly in the middle, that maybe 56TA would get wiped a little more efficiently. I think 56TA did a great job as a chainsaw that mid fight and just took out the marches that just kept coming one at a time, one after the other after the other.
I think the only thing that worries me is I'm watching all these rallies from 56 hit these structures, and it doesn't look like they're moving an inch. And so that's one of those things. Constantine is holding really strong. Here's a YSG primary on the bottom side Sky Altar.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things. If the garrisons are going to be that tough, you basically are going to have to throw off their timing. You're going to have to capture this arc, because all they're going to do is tee off on you, and they're going to put these OP garrisons up front. And it's going to put you against the wall, even with that 3K arc. It's a little less than 2K right now, but it is ticking in favor of 61 in that points per minute. They're still holding that 150, and every minute that just keeps adding and adding and adding. So if you are 56, that's definitely something you're going to want to consider, because all these marches and rallies are getting nuked every single time they hit a structure.
Now, favor being done to 56TA by 61HX, Eddie Garrison in the structure. So that's helpful for 56TA for sure to swarm that thing back down. Not known for his heavy counterattack damage and AoE damage is Eddie, or Tamiris for that matter. So I'm assuming that's a Tamiris secondary. In fact, I did see the green arrows get fired out there earlier. A lot of marches from 56TA to take this back, but 5 seconds until this starts to tick a few points, at least 150 points for one time. There it goes. So 61HX getting 150 points right off the bat there. It's now a 1,500 point game in favor of 61HX. And again, they're doing it on the back of a strong structure game, which is, again, a solid way to win these Osiris League playoff finals. Structure game won it last match with 1V taking out JST. Really a 4,000 to 5,000 point solid structure game, and also winning the arc is usually a good recipe for success. That's exactly what 1V did last match, and it looks like 61HX looking to maybe do the same thing here. Take the structures. Looks like they'll lose one of the arcs, but maybe if they can get one or two other arcs, do the flipperoo, and 61HX will have enough points everywhere to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at provision marches just because it's early to see if we have dedicated. And 61, all I see on 61HX is 2 marches provisioning. So like we were saying before, it's going to come down to, they're really investing in mid game and fighting and occupation. And then if you are able to squeak out some provisions, as well as 56, I'm looking right now, there's not very many. So it looks like we're going to be investing very heavily into the occupation game. So if that's being said, that and the arc are the two things, you're definitely going to want to start keeping your eyes out on more of the structures, because guys, I'm watching it right now on this bottom side desert altar, and the rally's hitting, the swarm is, and this Constantine is tanking all of it. So we're gonna have to figure out some different combos, boys.
Yeah, I would say that too. And when we're talking about Constantine, right, he was the premier garrison when it came to basically everything, until we started to see the Zenobias, the YSSs, the Theodoras, those types of commanders come out, which again, these two teams don't have access to, being in the realm of Sobek. So Constantine bringing in the fury when it comes to garrison goes, and they're trying to take this garrison on the Desert Altar bottom lane away from 61HX, but just solid reinforcement from 61HX, solid garrison play by them as well. And I'm seeing a lot of really solid marches from both teams, but 61HX just seeming to have just enough needed to do what needs to be done. There's a heavy swarm on this Desert Altar from 56T8, and it just doesn't seem like it's enough. I mean, there's 5, 6, 7 marches swarming this Desert Altar. The rally already went down and got swarmed down as well. It's just not enough.
Yeah, and the Constantine OP right there.
Yeah.
Just clean reinforcements. While we were chatting, the Ark was captured, so they did take the lead, but it's only by 1,000 with that 3,000 point Ark. So y'all can start to see the importance of Ark. If you are 56, you know you really are going to have to invest in that Ark, because the structure game is looking very, very strong for 61HX. We got a Luzetion topside Desert Altar that's looking very tanky as well, getting swarmed down, but she's, you know, and Garrisons may be the name of the game for this match, because it's not going to be provisions. We got a Constantine as well about to go down in the Shrine of Life on the top side and just flip back over. So, you know, 56 are resetting the field a little bit. We got about a minute and a half, maybe a couple of minutes before we're going to start seeing people rotate towards middle, and we're going to see what skills are going to get popped. Do you think they're going to be popping to the death, all those Heaven's Grace? Or what kind of skills do you think they're going to be popping in mid this time?
I think they're going to mirror, you know, what we've seen in other realms. Like you said, we're going to see some to the death, some Heaven's Grace. I don't know if it'll be next one, because it looks like they're trying to get at least 3 arcs out during this matchup. So maybe Heaven's Grace next, and then to the death on the final one, or vice versa. I think either option is perfectly fine. Saving some points up is going to be more difficult because of the quick-ish capture on that arc this time. Now, I will say, I mean, 61HX is really dominating this structure game. 56TA is going to need to get all of these arcs to stay competitive from a points perspective. Right now, again, it's only a 1,000-point match in favor of 56TA currently, but look at the points per minute. 620 points per minute for 61HX and only 270 for 56TA. 61HX took up almost the entire top lane with the exception of the obelisk for a good minute to 2 minutes. That's enough to cause such a major disruption that 56TA is going to have to find some points, and the only way I think they're going to get that big of chunk of points is going to have to be in the middle.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the points per minute right now. 270 for 56TA to 800 for 61HX. The good part is at least they have their Shrine of War right now in occupation for 56. That gives you that extra 5% for troop attack and troop defense. So, you know, that's you'll see that in some of the other matches that we've been casting. That plays a huge role, especially when it's tied up. Those extra 5% for each, and then you start popping skills, they start to stack. So you really want to keep your eyes on that. The altars are constantly in favor of 61. So you're going to see this points per minute tick, tick, tick away very quickly. And this arc is going to be very, very important for 56 to capture.
And that Constantine in the Desert Altar bottom lane for 61HX is a beast. It has had a constant swarm on it for non-stop time, and this Constantine just holding strong in the red. I mean, they're doing a very good job of holding these structures. The reinforcements are very solid. You got 61HX recalling troops to get full marches. They're going to the mid now with 4 minutes until the middle starts. They may actually lose this Desert Altar finally on the bottom lane. I mean, it took 56TA the entirety of these last 10 minutes to at least get it down to the point where it may actually happen. Conversely as well, we were talking about outposts earlier in the matchup and how aggressive 56TA was on all of those rallies going. We got 61HX, however, being the one to actually really harass and take outposts away from their opponent. Though almost the entire match, the outposts have been red in favor of 61HX. That's an extra 90 points per minute that they've been having a benefit to, and now it's starting to kind of equal out a little bit as 56TA starts to take their structures back. But we got the mid fight starting to pop off here in just a moment too. Yeah. Look at this already starting.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I was watching, and 61HX started like overextending it a little bit. And then you see all their marches starting to march forward, which I wasn't a huge fan, because those marches are going to get singled out. They're going to get knocked out before the actual battle starts. So that only plays in favor of 56. So you really don't want to see 61 ball up, get ready for an epic mid fight, stack a little skills, get ready to pop. And you're already starting to see 56 pull back a little bit, target these Belisariuses.
These other guys.
All these marches getting singled out. So that's really why in the Horus realm, Anubis, all those other realms, you start to see the teams ball up and fight as a unit, because if not, you're going to get separated out, like these Sun Tzus and Tommies and all these marches that are getting singled out right in the mid game and
Hmm.
running into the buzzsaw.
This is a little bit of a mess here in the middle. We have 56 TA really just throwing half, a quarter, a third of their troops into what looks to be a very sizable 61 HX ball of death, and doing a great job getting everybody cleared out for the most part. It's kind of like a role reversal here. We saw this happen with 56 TA buzzsawing 61 HXs. They kind of crept into the middle, one or two armies at a time, and now we're seeing the reverse here. 61 HX doing a great job balling up in front of the Temple of Osiris with 2 minutes until it spawns, and 56 TA repaying the kindness by doing exactly the same, just 1-2 marches at a time coming into what looks to be a meat grinder, and 61 HX looking to maybe position to get this next arc. They are doing a solid job of having a nice wall there in front of that temple. Minute and a half to go, Ball, but if this is going to go 61 HX's way, I mean, I know that right now 56 TA does have 3 altars, so that is something to think about, and they are ticking points as well, 680 versus 440. This middle fight here, this could be a deciding factor as we continue to move into the rest of the match with 30 minutes left.
For sure. It's almost like we saw a flip-flop, a complete 180 of what we saw the first rotation. We saw 61 over and, I feel like underinvested in the first one, and mid 56 took it, and now we flip-flop where 56 is now holding altars on the outside, but are a little bit thin on the mid game. So 61 came in well prepared for the second arc. But 56 are still dumping in more and more
they're heavily
marches.
investing now. Yeah,
they're heavily investing now, because they are seeing the altars flip over. Now it's 2-2, and you're going to see some of those dead troops, dead marches starting to return. We're constantly rotating. YSG, all that AoE, it's just, oof. So the arc is about to spawn in 30 seconds. The timing couldn't be any better for 56 in these fresh marches. But 61 are holding on, and have quite a presence in middle for sure. And I just see this obelisk flip over.
Heaven's Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting used on Heaven's Grace there. And again, I don't know if, again, that's necessarily the best play considering how probably most of those troops are almost dead. It is a healing factor skill. It is not a raw number getting added to your march. So the lower your march total is from a troop standpoint, the less effective that skill is. So maybe a little bit later than they wanted to, but they never really organized either. But right now, Arc is available to capture. Everybody's around the Arc spawning point, the temple there. It looks like 61 HX with that first grab. Let's see if it was on the right side. No, that was on the wrong side. They're going to have to come back all the way around. I'm keeping an eye on this obelisk too, Bubba. 1 minute until it gets captured.
Yeah. It was a Belisarius garrison when I was checking it out. I was like, oh no. Oh, 1 minute. Right. 1 minute and 61 will be able to port forward on that bottom side obelisk. But the Arc, and this is where we always say the importance of mid game and where you grab the Arc is very important, because look where the Arc got stuck. Got stuck on the side of the structure, and if you would have grabbed it from the back, they would have had optimal positioning, and it would have saved them about 30 seconds of just wasted time. But 61 are grabbing the Arc with a fast march, and they are booking it now. There's no holding them back now.
Yeah, they got that Saladin moving very quickly, and that was a great grab on the second attempt there. That was on the bottom side of where the obelisk was positioned. The Arc was positioned on the ground. That gave them a good 10-second movement skip, and then also that player was ready to move as soon as he grabbed it, so he had his movement dragged out already as soon as that message came up that said that he grabbed it. He was moving with a quickness, and it is going towards the 61HX side. 61HX is starting to clear out the 56TA folks from the middle, even though I think that if we had to put my my arm in the fire here, I think 56TA is reinforcing better. But again, they're coming in 1, 2, 3 at a time, and 56 is just getting buzzsawed out of there by 61HX's basically ball of death right here. Now, I will say buildings are starting to turn blue. We have the Shrine of War on the top lane there in favor of the 56TA folks, but not going to be enough to overcome a 3,500 point arc that's being moved right now by the 61HX team. It does go down. We'll see if there's maybe some movements happening. I know that there's some attacks on the Desert Altar here bottom lane, but it's not going to be enough, it looks like, to capture it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at those garrisons again. Constantine bottom side Desert Altar, just holding. That rally got crushed a couple of seconds ago. you know, and they're about to swarm down these marches. You know, it's one of those things. Just looks like the structure game is just too much right now. And I do like seeing 56 flipping some of these structures. Oh, that shrine would have been clutch if they would have had that for their mid game fight. But you know, it is what it is. We got the second arc. It's going to be very interesting to see whether they hold it. It appears they are going to their obelisk. So we may or may not see a final arc, but you know, it's now in the swing of 61HX, so they will determine. But I do like that 56 are applying that pressure and flipping a lot of these structures now.
So let's look at the timings, right? So 12 minutes until this arc is refreshed automatically, unless it gets dropped and re-grabbed by a different player. So that's something to take into account. Now, if everything goes the way that I'm sure 61HX wants, this Charles will eventually arrive with the arc in their obelisk area. That's 12 minutes until that would respawn. We have 24, almost 25 minutes left. So if they wait until the very last second, there still would be one arc coming after this one. It would be a close one. It would be a tight one. But there certainly would be another arc available to be fought for in the middle. And that may be the game-winning arc, depending on how this plays out. But I will say also, I mean, right now it's a 600-point match in favor of 56 TA. However, 3,500 points in the pocket of 61HX because they own the arc, and it is going back safely to their starting area at the obelisk. Speaking of obelisk, another rally. This rally's been sitting here for a good 3, 4, 5 minutes at almost dead on the top lane against 61HX and doing absolutely nothing. That's exactly what you need to do if you're 61HX. Make those rallies stay until the last possible second. Those marches can't do anything while they're just sitting there rallying a structure.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now at this bottom side altar, and 56 are heavily invested in the swarm on this one. It looks like the Constantine, we're going to see if it's going to go down finally, see if it goes down. But, you know, 56 are really pouring it on right now with an attempt. And the Constantine, you know, it was red. They're reinforcing it, but it's just not going away. You know, it's just not going away. War drums getting popped. Very interesting.
And Valiant Stand. Wow. I mean, this is what we're watching. You know, I mean, in regular arcs, Valiant Stand is really, really strong. Again, I mean, this is not your traditional Osiris League team playoff because this isn't your normal commanders. It's not your normal gear. And you know, you need to have sometimes a Valiant Stand. You need to have, I mean, there's some movement speed buffs. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Switch Stride or something like that used in this match. And that, I mean, look at the health of Constantine. He was already super tanky, and now add 80% defense on that. I mean, why would you not want to do that?
Yeah, and we're seeing all the blues just disappear now.
Yeah,
you know,
melting.
they had the numbers. The skill just got countered on the same structure. The swarm, you know, and it's just. It's always fun to watch. You know, they are holding this arc. They, you know, or actually the arc carrier is getting attacked right now, so he's about to drop it. But, you know, those marches are going to get pretty soon after it. Yeah, and so we are going to keep our eyes on it. The Constantine is still holding. You know, you just can't. You got to keep coming back. And Shrine of War about to tick over for 61HX. The points per minute, you know, slightly in favor right now before that shrine ticks over for 590 to 510 in favor of 56. And we're going to get ready to buckle up to see if we're going to have one final arc to decide this match.
Yeah, I think if 56 is not able to win the next arc, they need to focus on the structure game right now and continue to hold. The problem is, and I think we pointed this out multiple times, the garrisons for 61HX have been just so good. So 56 TA really needs to do something about this, whether they have their own skill, you know, the teardown skill to try and get these buildings down better. Or, again, Relentless Siege might be a good play to have with these rallies getting swarmed pretty much nonstop. You may want to have Relentless Siege be used to help keep your rallies up and cause damage on the swarmers to maybe get these extra structures down. But these Constantines are just so strong, Bulba. So hard to take these guys out.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I know that we used to talk about original Ark of Osiris, all that kind of stuff, and just how absolutely filthy, you know, Constantine garrisons. We used to see Charles, and it felt like Zenobia before Zenobia. So, you know, it never gets old. But I do love what I'm seeing from 56. Everything is, you know, flicking blue. I think they're just waiting on a couple structures to actually start ticking points in their favor. And this Shrine of Life is getting 40 seconds from ticking over. This altar is pretty close as well. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what 61 decide to do, being down 1,000 and this arc being worth 3,500. So they'll put them in about a 2K point advantage at that point.
So on the back end of all that conversation that we just had, it's a 1,000-point match in favor of 56TA right now. But again, 3,500-point arc in favor of 61HX. And 56TA did a little bit of a favor for possibly 61HX, and they swapped the timer out. They were able to grab the arc and not actually do anything with it. So it is now a 15-point timer for the arc with only 20 minutes remaining. This could now be the final arc of this match because there's a timer for the arc to actually spawn in the match. So I mean, this is going to be something that could have been a disaster move for 56TA when it came to refreshing that timer. That could be the difference between winning and losing, unless they've got a very strong provision game on the back end, which you said that you didn't really see too much provisioning happening. Obelisk on the top lane though for 61HX under heavy assault. Alex looks like Alex YSG here doing some work. Not sure if they're going to have the reinforcements popping in here shortly, but it's getting very good trades right now, and that Constantine is currently half health, looking to maybe get a heal out of there at some point, unless it did not get refreshed from the last rally.
Yeah, and right now 61, you have a little cushion in your pocket, you know what I mean? And so they're flipping focus back to occupation. I'm watching the topside desert altar getting ready to get swarmed down by all these Alexes on the Wuzetion garrison, and there it goes, flips over in favor of 61, but no hard push, no, and that's kind of the thing that we'll notice in the younger realms is the offensive skills get popped so often, but you're not going to see as many hard pushes or kind of strategic occupational type stuff that we'll tend to see constantly in Anubis and Horus. You see hard push getting put nonstop. And in the younger realms, you tend to see more offensive stuff for the middle or a valiant stand and at an awkward timing, but it keeps it very fresh and very unique. And as we're seeing right now, 3 altars in favor of 61 after they switch over.
Yeah, and I actually think hard push is still running for 61HX because that should have been a 3-minute timer, right? If there was no hard push and it was a 2-minute timer when it got taken. That's right, right?
Okay. Yes, you're correct.
So it looks like hard push still active for 61HX. I'm not sure if that's the case for 56TA. However, that obelisk is taken on the top lane by 56TA. Alex Garrison with a YSG secondary is likely the case. Getting swarmed right now by 61HX, trying to get this thing back and doing a good job. Looks like that Garrison will go down 1 minute 25 seconds before it starts to tick points for 1, and then 2 allow teleports into that starting zone there. But I don't think they're going to be able to keep it for that minute and 15 seconds unless a transport rally comes in here with some reinforcements, which would have required some foresight. I just see so much swarming by 56TA trying to take these Constantine garrisons down, and it's just not enough. I mean, they're even going to get Valiant Stand back here in a little bit. If they wanted to use it again, they certainly could on an offensive structure. And could you imagine using Valiant Stand on maybe the Desert Altar on the top lane of 56TA and holding that for 61HX and holding the actual arc, which they're still doing right now, by the way. So, I mean, just imagine if they just constantly have that. They're already holding their own very well.
Yeah, and this is kind of the moment if you're 56 and with your top tier teams, you start to notice this is you're already starting to send out provisioners. You're sending out at least one march for sure to try to make up that gap because you already see it right here. It's a 1K lead. You're going to be giving them a 2.5K cushion. You're going to have to make it up somewhere, and it won't be an arc. And occupation 61 has done very, very well. So I'm going to check in a little bit to see if they did flip that because they are still banging their heads on this Constantine and the altars, and it just feels like they're just banging their head against the wall right now, trying to hammer down these Constantines, and it's just not going down. It's not working.
Yeah, it's just staying up, no problem. Yeah, just holding their own, no issues whatsoever. Arc's still stationary, even though I can't see it on my screen. It is still there, and it is still waiting for that timer to go. I think 61HX is doing the right play here. They're remaining within 1,000 points. They've got 3,500 points in their back pocket, and with no provisioning happening for the most part on both sides, and being able to hold their own structures and take 56TA structures seemingly at will whenever they want to focus on it. I think that's the right move, right? I mean, you don't have to go to the middle if you're taking structures nonstop throughout the match, denying points per minute right now. Again, 160 points per minute in favor of 61HX because they've been taking outposts, they've been taking altars, they've been taking those heavy generating point structures. So, I mean, it's very strong performance by 61HX. And again, their defense has really, in my opinion, if we had to kind of nail what's been winning this match for 61HX, even though they're not winning right now, they're kind of winning with that arc in their back pocket. What's been the sign of victory for either one of these teams? I think 61HX's garrison performance has been absolutely outstanding, alongside of proper reinforcement as well. You can't deny that as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now on this top side for 56. They got so many provision marches out that are coming in and coming out. They're gonna keep attempting to do it. I'm not a huge fan. If you are a provisioner, it's very rare that you're gonna see them come in unless it's a couple of minutes prior to the end of the match, just because of how long it takes to march to these nodes.
Yep.
But they are sending more provision marches out. So that maybe they heard the stream, but I am looking close to the starting gate, and they're there. They're by all the obelisks. They are investing into provisions right now, which is very, very smart. So it's going to come down to the wire. I think they're going to hard counter. They're going to try to hard counter this extra arc and pull it in the last couple of seconds with these provisions.
Yep. Here starts the outpost flips of 56TA on the top side. We have a Saladin YSG versus an Ethelfled and something. Didn't give me the graphic there. It might be YSG as well. But either way, it's going down. Causing 5 marches from 56TA to come over and take out the Saladin. But once that Saladin takes the outpost, yep, that's exactly what happened. Now I can go ahead and outpost hop with the hasty departure talent inside of that support tree. So, I'm just looking at these garrisons, man. I mean, there were just so many 56TA around this desert altar on the bottom lane, and it just doesn't look like this. Constantine is just budging at all. Hard push being used by 61HX, refreshing it for the last 13 minutes of this game. It'll obviously be effective for 10 of those 13 minutes. Oh my goodness. I mean, just this Constantine on the top side on the desert altar, however, when they had Constantine or Wu for 56TA, just seemed to go down like butter compared to this Constantine on the 61HX side, Bulba. It's crazy.
Yeah, and they are starting to harass some of the provisioners. I'm looking at the arc runner as he was parked there, had a little pep in his step when some of the 56 marches. But just as we're looking like that, they're trying to do the pull by the arc carrier, but they're swarming this Constantine and getting absolutely fried. So it's just, they're throwing everything at the fan right now. But 61, they're reeling them in, and 56 still keeping that 1K lead, sending out provisioners, and it's going to come down to whether they've provisioned well. I think they might be wasting a little too much time coming back to their cities. The benefit would have been just to let them hit you. Just make sure if your march is going to die, you die outside of the node. That way you don't lose all your provision. But I do see some CCs hitting on the top side obelisk to come and target these provision marches right now. So if you are those guys provisioning, just make sure you don't die inside the tile, or else you lose all of your provisions. So that's something to keep our eyes on.
I have to think there's been about 100 armies that have died on this garrison for the desert altar bottom lane against 61HX. They just keep coming and swarming with 10 marches at a time, and then they all die, and then there's 3 or 4 more marches coming because they're slow. Then they swarm and they die, and there's just continued reinforcement from 61HX going back and forth and back and forth. Doing a great job. Still a 1,000-point game for 56TA, and again, I'm actually surprised considering the structure game that we've seen. Right now it's knotted up 590 all, but again, 2,500 extra points being held currently by 61HX. I think it will come down to maybe provision. Provisions you can see 2,500 points from provisioning pretty easily. I see a lot more marches provisioning on the 56TA side than on the 61HX side, but there are still some provisions happening on the 61HX side. So you need to understand, is it going to be enough? I think we're going to have to really wait until these last 11 minutes unfold. And one thing I can pretty much guarantee is this desert altar on the bottom lane for 61HX will stay red for the rest of the match.
Yeah, man, that guy has not budged.
That guy needs a beer.
What Constantine gear he's using, because You need to set that up in KVK 100%.
Yeah.
But we're watching. I just counted on the 56 side. They had 13 provision marches that I could count that were going in. But I did see them constantly rotating back to their cities, and you really don't want that. The provisions are going to stack. So as long as you don't die inside of a node, once your march returns back to your city, whether it's dead or killed in the open field, it's gonna tick all those over. So you don't want to waste a ton of time marching between each node, which is why you'll see high tier provision players. They'll have that fast gear. They're gonna have, they might utilize T1s, T4s. It just depends on what their strategy is. But they don't return back home until the last couple of minutes before the match is going to end, just to utilize and maximize the amount of time that they spend in a node.
Yeah, you're right. And there is some harassment on this arc carrier. It looks like he will eventually go down to these 3 marches that are hitting him. 61HX is kind of playing with fire a little bit. You've got 4 minutes until this arc despawns. Capturing the arc right now basically will do the trick. It's 9.5 minutes left until this arc, or this match, is over. If you capture it right now, there is no more arc happening. So, I mean, now's the time. And if, okay, so 61HX did grab it, but the timer did not refresh. So something to think about. He is moving with a Genghis. It's half dead. If 56TA can just keep killing the arc carrier for the next 3.5 minutes, that may be the win. It's now knotted up, by the way, 28K to basically 28K.
Mm-hmm.
If I was 56TA, I would be swarming the arc carrier. Not okay, so he just captured it. So good job. It's like, okay, we can do this now. Okay, yeah, that could have been a problem. That could have been a huge problem. But yeah, so now they capture the arc. Now it is now a 3,000 point game, 3,500 point game, 3,800 point game in favor of 61HX. 8.5 minutes left. That can be made up with provisions. That can be made up with a strong structure game. Problem is, Desert Altar top lane for 56TA lost to 61HX a minute ago, and it now has 50 seconds until it starts taking points. 61HX as well. Their structure game has really won this match for them, in my opinion. Arcs have been even. I think they're going to lose on provisioning to 56TA, but this structure game, man, so solid for 61HX.
And we always talk about it. The most important structure, if you're going to focus on it, guess what, is the altar. And that altar on bottom side just hasn't given an inch. Yeah, hero altar has just, it flipped maybe a couple of times, but to flip a couple of times in a 60-minute match, that's insane. And the fact that's a hero play right there. That Constantine, and once again getting swarmed down, not moving an inch. It's just a clinic on what you want to be striving for in Osiris League for sure.
I think the other thing too, looking at the marches now, that there's a little bit of space around this building that 56TA is using to swarm this Constantine garrison down. Not exactly the best. You have a lot of Constantine Jones, Constantine Mulans. There's no skill damage there. You're not really causing, there's certainly buffs to be had, but there is a ratio of too much buffs to not enough damage from the buffs. So you need to have heavy nuke. You need to have your Mina double Cs. You need to have your Alex YSGs. You need to have even El Cid certainly is game-changing inside of this level of arc play because of his silence. You've got so much to disable. So much things are happening that I think that's kind of getting lost here. I see Sun Tzu fighting in the open field instead of swarming that desert altar. I see Eddie fighting in the open field, now has a red march coming towards the altar. What's the point of that? I mean, just there's not enough nuke damage on this Constantine to make him flinch at all. Constantine Wu, such a solid garrison pairing for this level of gameplay. There's 10, 15 marches for 56TA, and maybe 10. About 10-ish, well, maybe closer to 15. 15 marches, yeah, I think so. Actually, for 56TA, only one march right now is hitting the altar. All the other ones are fighting in the open field. What's the point?
Yeah, and it's very interesting, when you were talking about compositions, just looking at the difference between, just the troop type itself. Typically in these matches in Arc, you want to have a faster march. You got to march across the entire field. That's why you tend not to see top tier teams running with a bunch of infantry or a majority infantry, because when you got to reinforce from across the map, or you got to run and the speed. And right now I'm seeing a ton of Sun Tzus. I'm seeing way more infantry from the side of 56 than I am Cav. which is a little bit alarming because on 56 you see them constantly reinforcing. But guess what they're using? Khans, CCs, Saladins. They will mix in and sprinkle in some Charles and some Alex, but they're primarily focused with Cav, and that's going to be a huge deal breaker, especially when you're trying to reinforce a rally from across. That's why you're seeing all their stuff get nuked before it comes out. And, partially it has to do with lack of DPS, but the other is just lack of Cav and speed and mobility across the map. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see if they adjust for it in match number 2.
Yeah, I agree. And 56TA did end up taking the obelisk here and has captured it on the bottom lane of 61HX. Not really seeing anybody port in per se. I think they're busy trying to take proper structures, but now they're on the defensive. 56TA is now pulling back because you've got top lane heavy push from 61HX near the Shrine of Life area. 56TA did use Valiant Stand on their Desert Altar top lane, but I think if they were going to use that maybe a little bit earlier in the match where they were losing that structure back to back to back to back. Bottom lane Sky Altar for 56TA now flipping 61HX's color of red because of a nice heavy swarm, heavy nuke. You had Alex's YSG, Saladin's, Genghis. You have a Charles with likely YSG behind. You have El Cid with, again, likely YSG or Tamiris behind. Then you've got a couple debuff and buffers. You want to have from these swarming, especially in this realm, you want to have majority swarm with some debuff or buff. You don't want to have the majority buff debuff with no nuke and then some nuke behind. That's the opposite of what you want to have. And that's showing dividends for 61HX, holding strong against, again, a single Edward Tamiris rally. Normally, if this was heads up, that Constantine may have some issues, although Constantine Wu is really strong. It's really strong.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what I think 61HX was hoping for. They've got 3 altars going into the last 4 minutes of the match. They've got a 4,000 point lead right now in favor of their team, and even I don't think any amount of provisioning, 4,000 points in provisioning coming in the last 3 minutes would be very, very hard to see for 56TA. It's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, and definitely coming into match number 2, they're going to have to do a little homework on what compositions are going to have swarming these Constantines, because if this guy is going to tank that hard
So well,
you are going to have to change up your compositions. There's just no way. There's Valiant Stand getting popped, and it's on a forward facing altar, and that lets you know when they understand, hey, we don't even, this Constantine is holding regardless. Let's use it on this Wuzetion, who's now going to absolutely tank all of it. It's just a masterclass in what kind of marches you're going to need to utilize in order to take down some of these garrisons, because 56 has used Constantine and Garrison, and it has done very well, but it hasn't done as well as this Constantine, and partially it has to deal with the marches, like you were saying, that are swarming, and the other part just has to do, I think, with troop type, and I think it's something to be noticed. I'm watching the Desert Altar again. They do have more cabs this time, a couple of YSG, so they are coming out with a little bit different. There's a Charles Barca, man, you love to see it. And so we're gonna see this Constantine. Look, he's going way faster than what he's previously been going down, and it's just I think the compositions they're using to swarm.
Yeah, I agree, and don't knock on Barca. Sun Tzu Barca was my jam before KBK was even a thing, or Osiris League or Ark of Osiris was even a thing in Rise of Kingdoms, back when it was called Rise of Civilizations. Sun Tzu Barca was my jam. In a heartbeat. He was my second best march next to Richard and Charles. So infantry gang for life, even though not so much anymore. But looking at the match right now, a minute and a half left, a minute until the arc spawns, obviously not nearly enough time. 4 altars in favor of 61HX, taking the last desert altar to the death, being used by 56TA, knowing that the match is pretty much over. That was used up here at the top fight where they were already kind of winning. So again, I think they understand this is kind of over. Minute and 20 seconds until this match is over officially, but 4,500 points currently is the total for the victory right now for 61HX, and currently they have a 520 point per minute advantage as well. So they're going to get another 500. It might end up being about a 5,000 point total. Although provisions are starting to come in, they're losing all their buildings. They've got 2 obelisks and 2 shrines, and that's for now, and that's it. So, and 1 outpost. I should not discount that 1 outpost up there on the bottom lane. But looking at 4,600 points now in favor of 61HX, and it's only going to get bigger with this many buildings in the red color.
Yeah, and the neutral game is a very, very powerful thing. Um, it's a very powerful thing just because at this moment in the game, you can't actually recapture it. So, what's neutral is going to stay neutral for the
Yeah.
remainder of the match.
Points are done at that point.
Points are done. And so that's a very, very powerful tool for other teams to recognize is at a certain point, even with hard push, you are not going to capture these. So losing your altars, losing stuff like that can be just as detrimental as provisions can be as well at the end of the game.
Yeah, we're ticking down the last seconds here. Congratulations to 61HX. We're taking round 1 of the Realm of Sobek's finals in the playoffs of Season 5 Osiris League. Victory goes 61HX. Also the MVP, Guy Lee, 174,000 individual score. Looking at the totals here again, really solid performance from an occupation standpoint. And again, we said it the whole match. Structures won that match for 61HX, and they did it in a convincing fashion. Also, look at the total kills, Boba. Pretty impressive from 61HX. Any other insights besides the provision score that looks like it had a little bit of a delta there? What else are you seeing that you wanted to highlight before we wrap stream up?
Well, and I keep bringing up provisions because we definitely touched on occupation for sure, and the arc went 1-1, but the amount of marches, and that's kind of what it comes back to when they rewatch this, the amount of time they spend marching back to their cities, investing that many provision marches is why their score is so low. If they would have just stayed and tile hopped into different nodes, this would have been definitely around the 6.5K for sure around that moment. But the amount of time that you spend marching all the way back to your city, those are minutes on minutes that are just getting wasted that you could have been scoring some points. So that's something I want to see them adjust. We did see towards the end that their march composition when swarming that Constantine got a little better. So I'm very excited to see what the second match next week is gonna bring for them.
Yeah, I agree. The cool thing, and let's go ahead and jump back into the caster booth as we kind of wrap up the final thoughts about this matchup that we just noticed. So, thank you, Boba, again for joining me for this matchup. I think that as we were looking at this, some adjustments can be made on both sides. I think both teams probably left a little bit on the field that they wanted to adjust and maybe tweak as we continue to go into round 2 and possibly round 3 for the Realm of Sobek. We've seen all 4 matches. I do want to go and check really quickly before I let you guys go and let you know the Rays match as well and see how that played out for the first round. Looks like Rays lost to 06HS. 06HS took the victory with a 5,000 point total. So again, really close games with the exception of the 3 UTC matchup. The games were all within that 10,000 point range. Both teams on both sides performing at a very high level. Again, just to kind of mimic on what you were saying, Boba, I think that both teams performed really well, considering again these are 2 Realm of Sobek teams with limited options, limited resource capabilities from a equipment standpoint. So I think that when we're talking about compositions of Swarm, talking about the garrisons, this is a garrison meta for the most part in the Realm of Sobek because of how strong Constantine and Wu is. So we have to understand that, and especially if you're going to throw Valiant Stand on that. I mean, it's just salt in the wound when it comes like, I can't take it. And you're going to pop Valiant Stand on top of that. So I'll wrap it up with that. I'm looking forward to seeing if 56TA can, in fact, make some adjustments and come out strong. Boba, any final thoughts before I click this thing on the off button?
Guys, thank y'all again for hanging out with us. All these teams, I do love the idea of having this as a best of 3 because now you're going to see these teams, these planners, make some adjustments, and you're really going to see, what these teams are all about next week after playing the first one. So I'm excited to cast with my duo again next week. I hope to see y'all. Thank you again. Make sure if y'all haven't already, all our links are in the description for all of our casters. And thank you again for supporting us. I appreciate it.
Yep, thanks a lot. And just as a reminder as well, this is the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you've not done so already. Really looking forward to next week for you guys as round 2 approaches. See you guys next time. Cheers. Have a good one. Take care.